It's February 13th. Welcome to YesToHellWith.com. Most people who know me would probably describe me as a very friendly man, a patient man, a giving man, an understanding person who seeks truth and wisdom. I give people the time of day, everybody. I share and love everybody. And it is in this spirit that I'm going to address a very difficult topic today, and I hope you share it with people. I hope you listen intently. I'm going to be making a comparison and contrast between my time in federal prison and the federal corrupt judicial system and comments made by a follower on YesToHellWith.com. This is illustrative of life, and it will tell us, if we listen closely, why we are in the place we are as a country. On January 15th, a Yes to Hell With follower made some comments in reference to my criminal case. Specifically, he addressed the issue of child support. His name is Bradley Allen. He made a categorical judgment against me by posing a question loaded with presumption regarding my moral character. Specifically, he asked me to respond to my quote-unquote version of the government's accusation that I hid money and failed to pay child support. This is not the first time I've had encounters with Mr. Allen on chat. His perspectives have always been presented with an air of condescension, assumed superiority. He consistently angles his approach as though he begins from a position of correctness. That posture forecloses objectivity before the inquiry ever begins. Since he openly identifies himself as a tax paralegal by profession, that posture is all the more troubling. I raise this issue publicly because Mr. Allen's method is not unlike that of the IRS and the broader federal enforcement apparatus. When Americans judge fellow Americans outside of lawful proof, outside of jurisdictional inquiry, and outside of structural authority, we do the government's work for it. We abandon the framework of organic law that undergirds the Constitution and defeat freedom, and we do it ourselves. The federal system is sufficiently corrupt and procedurally predatory without citizens reinforcing its very flawed habits. Given our recent discussions concerning authority, jurisdiction, status, standing, and obligation, Mr. Allen's posture cannot be reconciled from a lawful perspective, much less a disciplined moral one. What is revealed here is not a disagreement over tactics, as he likes to say, or personality. What is exposed is a moral impasse, one that mirrors the pathology of modern courts, prosecutors, and administrative enforcement systems. This discussion surrounding alleged child support issues and accusations of hiding money is not about taxation. It is not about jurisdiction. It is not about statutory construction. It is about substituting moral condemnation for legal proof when authority and jurisdiction cannot be clearly established. Under the Liberty Dialogues, this substitution is not incidental. It's systematic. Law exists for one reason: to restrain power by requiring proof. Authority must be identified. Jurisdiction must be established. Status must be shown. Standing must be demonstrated. Obligation must arise from statute. These are structural requirements, not philosophical abstractions. When those requirements are bypassed, process becomes discretionary, and that is a slippery slope, as we know. And when discretion replaces law, truth becomes irrelevant. That is, precisely what occurred here. The question Mr. Allen posed, what is your version of the government's accusation that you hid money to avoid child support, is not neutral. It assumes relevance. It presumes legitimacy. It assumes that an accusation external to the charged offense deserves moral weight. Child support was not an element of the alleged tax offense. Its introduction was prejudicial narrative. Even Mr. Allen acknowledges that it was prejudicial. Yet he simultaneously treats it as probative of intent and character. That is not analytical consistency, that is error, egregious error, especially for a paralegal. Character does not create jurisdiction. Moral failure does not expand congressional power. Alleged intent does not substitute for statutory applicability. Even if, hypothetically, every moral accusation were true, it would have no lawful bearing on whether federal jurisdiction existed, whether statutory authority applied, or whether prosecution was legitimate under the written law. If courts may skirt black-letter law whenever a defendant appears morally distasteful, then justice becomes conditional. Liberty, freedom, becomes discretionary. Truth becomes tactical. Mr. Allen's reasoning mirrors prosecutorial design. When authority is weak, narrative is introduced. When proof is thin, moral outrage fills the void. When jurisdiction is questionable, character assassination becomes leverage. This is not theory. It is common courtroom strategy. Mr. Allen made this personal by framing moral conclusions rather than structural questions. He has done so before. In the Orchid case involving George Norris, Mr. Allen declined to assist Mr. Norris after a jurisdictional examination of the record. He concluded, based upon government documents, that Mr. Norris was in fact guilty and therefore unworthy of support. Now, this is not withstanding the fact that George Norris is dead, and Mr. Allen cannot help a dead man. But more importantly, Mr. Norris was innocent. He was a part-time reseller of orchids, flowers, and he was rated by the U.S. Wildlife Service. Think about that for a second. Think about it. Mr. Allen, I don't think Mr. Norris would have accepted your help in the least, even if you offered it for free. Whether Norris was morally innocent or guilty is not the central issue here. The issue is that Allen, again, substituted his personal judgment for structural inquiry. That is how prosecutors think. They think to assassinate character as opposed to proving their case based upon facts and truth. That is how administrative systems preserve outcomes of guilt when those who are presumed guilty are actually innocent. I'm going to continue this conversation tomorrow about Mr. Allen, the paralegal, because there's some tremendous insight that we can gain from it. And as always, may truth reign supreme.